Welcome to The Explainer. I am so glad you're joining us today. So, we're going to take a really close look at a dynamic, ever changing ecosystem, which is the modern construction site. Now, in an environment where things are literally shifting by the minute, safety isn't just a piece of paper. It's definitely not just a morning checklist you breeze through. It is an active, continuous process of stopping dominoes before they fall. And today, we're diving into exactly why workplace inspections are the ultimate tool for preventing accidents before they even have a chance to happen. Right off the bat, listen to this powerful truth from our source material. A small hazard that isn't managed can become a serious danger quickly and without warning. I mean, really think about that for a second. The stakes on a job site are incredibly sudden. It's not always a massive structural failure that causes a tragedy, right? Actually, it's usually a tiny, unmanaged detail that just sets off a disastrous chain reaction. So let's look at Section 1, the ever-changing worksite. From the moment you clock in to the moment you leave, the environment around you is fundamentally transforming. Every new person who walks on site, every single piece of heavy equipment that rolls in, and every new task assigned introduces entirely new, hidden hazards right into your workspace. And we aren't just talking about giant cranes collapsing here. We're looking at the common, everyday hazards. We're housekeeping with scattered tools, cords, and hoses left out that create tripping hazards. Maybe a blocked exit, or even just an unlabeled chemical product. It is shockingly easy for a simple flipped ladder or a loose extension cord to trigger that catastrophic chain reaction we just talked about. And well, this brings us to a really crucial concept, the near miss. A near miss is basically an unplanned event that didn't result in injury or damage, but absolutely had the potential to do so. You might call it a close call or a narrow escape. But I want to completely reframe this for you. A near miss is not a reason to just wipe the sweat from your brow and look the other way. It is a free lesson. It is a blaring warning sign that a domino is wobbling and you have a very brief window to stop it from tipping over. Okay, let's dive into Section 2, the inspection toolkit. So, how do we actually catch those wobbling dominoes? Well, we use workplace inspections. This is our primary physical method for identifying hazards, catching those near misses, and making absolutely sure everyone goes home safe at the end of the day. There are two main categories of inspections we rely on: formal and informal. Formal inspections are probably the ones you're most familiar with. They're documented, they're scheduled at set intervals, they use specific checklists, and they're carried out by trained teams. But I want you to look at the informal side. These are undocumented, they are continuous, and they are the daily responsibility of every single supervisor and worker on site. You absolutely cannot wait for a formal audit to pick up a tripping hazard. Within that informal category, we have ongoing and pre-use inspections. Think of this as your daily defense. Before you even begin your shift, before you strap on your personal protective equipment, or before you fire up a piece of mobile equipment, you have to do a pre-use check. This immediate action is a non-negotiable responsibility shared by absolutely everyone. Now, when we get into the heavier stuff, notice how the maintenance inspections break down here. Hand tools like drills generally don't have scheduled maintenance, right? They just get a repair tag when they break. But look at company vehicles and heavy equipment like cranes or forklifts. These absolutely require formal, scheduled maintenance based on mileage or the hours they've been used, complete with pre-trip checklists. You simply cannot treat a forklift the same way you'd treat a hand drill. Moving right along to Section 3, the power of speaking up. It is incredibly common for workers to fear being judged or maybe seen as annoying for reporting every little thing. There's this huge tendency to just walk right past a hazard. But here is the absolutely crucial point. If it's not reported, no one will take care of it. We have to completely dispel the dangerous myth that someone else will fix it. Because, spoiler alert, they won't. Speaking up and reporting hazards directly prevents injuries, illnesses, and massively costly property damage. Your voice is quite literally the safety net for the entire site. Which leads us to Section 4, learning, not blaming, the investigation. Okay, so what happens if a hazard does slip through the cracks and an incident actually occurs? That's when we enter the investigation phase. The absolute most important thing to understand here is that investigations are purely about discovering root causes and gathering information to learn and improve. It is not about pointing fingers. It's not a witch hunt. It's about making sure the exact same thing never happens again. If you are ever involved in or witness an incident, you need to actively participate. First, provide as much detailed information as you possibly can. Don't hold back. Your perspective is vital. Second, share any suggestions you have on how to solve the problem. And third, absolutely do not resume work in that area unless it has been made completely safe and you are directly instructed to do so by your employer. And these investigations aren't just casual, informal chats over coffee. They are bound by strict legal timelines. Within 48 hours, a preliminary investigation must be completed to correct the immediate hazard so work can safely resume. But it doesn't stop there. Within 30 days, a full, complex investigation must be finalized and submitted to regulatory bodies, like WorkSafe BC, according to our source material, proving that the deep root issues have been permanently corrected. When investigators figure out what went wrong, they use a specific framework to fix it, called the hierarchy of controls. Notice how this is structured from best to worst. First, you want to eliminate the hazard entirely. If you can't do that, you try to substitute it. Then you look at engineering controls, followed by administrative rules. And look at what is dead last at number 5, personal protective equipment, or PPE. Actually, scratch that idea that PPE makes you invincible. PPE is always the final, weakest line of defense, not your first option. Relying on it just means the hazard is still right there in the room with you. Now, if someone does get injured, we look to modified work programs. Stay-at-work programs allow an injured worker to remain on the job with light duties. Return-to-work programs help bridge the gap back to full recovery. You might wonder, why do this instead of just staying home and resting? Well, because these programs offer full wages, they promote much faster physical recovery, and honestly, they are incredibly beneficial for workers' mental health by keeping them connected to their team. Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, your rights and safety. Worksite safety is not just a top-down mandate handed to you from an employer. It's a collaborative, ongoing effort that is deeply rooted in the law, giving you real power in this whole equation. You have 3 fundamental worker rights: the right to know about any hazards you might face, the right to participate in health and safety activities, and critically, the right to refuse unsafe work. Utilizing these rights isn't optional. Under safety legislation, it's an absolute must. And utilizing these rights legally protects you from any kind of discipline or retaliation. You literally cannot be fired for being safe. So, I want to leave you with this provocative question to chew on. What is the true cost of an unreported hazard? And how will you change your approach to your next shift? Safety on a work site isn't just someone else's job. It belongs to all of us. The next time you walk onto a site, take personal ownership of your environment. Be the one who spots the danger. Be the one who speaks up. Be the one who stops the next domino from falling. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer, and hey, stay safe out there.